Well, good evening, my friends. Welcome back to Thoughts with Carpo, 15-minute free thinking, or Carpo's Corner, or Carpo 719, or Cynical Skeptical Citizen, or whichever channel this ends up on. I have many different facets to who I am and I guess how I present myself, but it's always me. And I have many different thoughts about life in general, but today I'd like to talk about something specific relating to self-defense and protection. I guess it's not really necessarily about self-defense so much as being wise, being aware, knowing what's going on around you. You know, I'm a passive person. I'm a person who cares about other people, doesn't want to harm anyone. I would never go to war or shoot anyone unless I absolutely had to. But there's also a part of me that knows that if my family was ever in danger, I would definitely do what needed to be done. And I won't deny that I have a very... I gain satisfaction seeing people get their karma for doing wrong to others. I watched a couple stories earlier that came on while I was watching YouTube videos, and they, you know how the algorithm works, and it played through a few videos over the past several years about home intruders who were shot. Now, there were a couple who I said right on for the homeowner. Such as, 3 or 4 people kick in somebody's front door and start beating his wife up. He comes in, she tries to shoot them, they take her gun, beat her up with it, he comes in and kills them, or one of them. But one story, he said he shot the guy in the knees. And he's like, I shot him in the legs because I didn't want to kill him. I didn't want to go that far and have that on my shoulders. And I thought about this. The guy who said this was just a normal average Joe who walked in on his wife being attacked by 2 intruders in his home. He had the sound mind to actually cripple the guy and not kill him. I thought, wow, isn't that amazing that an average citizen without any formal training could think that clearly, whereas an officer of the law, the people that we pay, a very good amount of money, might I add, to defend us, to serve and protect, can't even protect us properly. And I know that may sound offensive to somebody who believes in the thin blue line and how officers put their lives on the line. I respect that an officer's job is brutal, but honestly, it's not even in the top 10 most dangerous jobs. If anything, we should be a little more understanding of the position of those in authority. But maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. The reason I bring officers of the law into this is because when you talk about self-defense, people are not able to defend themselves against police. I saw a recent case of a cop who pistol whipped some kid like 9 times because he had a warrant out for a probation violation or something, but the kid didn't know it apparently, and ended up getting 6 stitches on his head, getting pistol whipped just because the cop wanted to. Now, this was a cop that had several prior complaints. There are many of these cases, but the point being that nothing's ever properly punished when it comes to those in authority who do wrong to a citizen. So this is because officers aren't held liable and citizens have to defend themselves, but they're not able to. And if they do, it's considered resisting arrest or escape, you name it. Basically, police can do anything they want. This can get quite frustrating for citizens. But protecting yourself against other citizens is a completely different story. Some states have a stand your ground law, for example, like Florida. We all know the Zimmerman case, well, most of us do, and the situations that have unfolded over recent years about standing your ground. This law is constantly abused by people who want to be able to shoot someone because they are suspicious of them. However, overwhelmingly, the idea and the implication behind something like this is to keep people from kicking in your front door and then having you be liable for shooting them. And this happens regularly. People set up booby traps or shoot someone who comes into their house unarmed, and the person who owns the home is charged. I think this is wrong. I think people should be able to protect their homes, whatever means necessary. Now, I should probably define what I mean there, because that might sound harsh. If let's say a 16-year-old kid breaks into somebody's home, should they be shot? No, of course not. It's a horrible thing, and it should not happen. But if a 16-year-old breaks into a house and knows they can be shot, it leaves the door open to interpretation. Age isn't everything. At one time in history, I thought that, if someone's a minor, they need to be treated as such. I've seen some things over the past couple decades, especially the last 5, 6 years, 7 years, even the last 10 years, that have disgusted me with how kids have acted. I've seen videos of groups of kids harassing their teachers, beating up on their teachers, beating up on adults, mobs of kids running through the streets. If you haven't seen Clockwork Orange, then you probably wouldn't know what I mean, but a mob like that, this is what it seems like it's leading to. Now, I'm not an old guy with a cane here saying, oh my God, these kids of today. But the truth is, there are some groups of kids who are unruly mobs around here that remind me of some of the hooligans after sports games in the UK. Kids in their damn sports games. I say football or soccer, whatever you want to call it. But somebody was pointing out how they call America a violent place because we have guns. I think it was Doug Stanhope who pointed this out. He said, they call us violent in America because we have guns, but the truth is, usually it's a bar fight that ends with, screw you, because nobody wants to fight because you're afraid of getting a broken tooth because the dentist is so expensive, and everybody's packing heat. Whereas in the UK, a simple soccer game ends, and everybody mobs into the streets and beats the shit out of each other, and they have huge floods into the hospital of people who are hurt because of a game. No other reason. And that kind of sunk in with me. I really had to think about that one. And it's true. It's interesting. Every culture has their thing, but I'm not going to say that having weapons or having guns stops violence, but let me just say that the Second Amendment definitely has a place in a country as crazy as ours. And I don't know. I have mixed feelings on, for example, guns. If people want to own them, so be it. If people don't, so be it. I know that the manufacturers of ammunition and weaponry would love you to keep buying them. That's for sure. I figure each person only has one hand, so a couple of different firearms of different types are fine if a person needs them, and a little ammo box, but you don't need a damn arsenal. It's ridiculous. But to each their own, I believe in prepping, but I'm not a prepper in the sense of, waiting for a full-out attack or full-scale nuclear war or something. But who knows? Anything can happen. And in a case like that, I'd like to kind of finish up on that point. I have kind of been just kind of randomly talking about self-defense and protecting yourself, but right now, this is the thing to remember. When a society is stable, when everyone's doing well, when everyone feels respected, listened to, and backed up by their fellow man, things go pretty well and things go pretty smooth. The minute things start to fall apart and the cracks start to show, people start marching in the streets and everything starts to decay. This is what's happening right now. What's been happening over the past couple of years with all the current situations. I don't even have to point them out to you. And now the economy has been pumped full of fiat currency, trillions of dollars given to the people, which right now makes it appear like everything's a free-for-all and everyone's doing well. Most people still have some of the money they got from their, kickdowns from the government. Things are going to get nasty again. As the reality sinks in that it's not a matter of people not taking jobs, it's a matter of people not being able to pay their bills with the jobs they have. Things are getting a little bit nasty out there. The minute a society starts to break down, there's chaos. Now, I could point you to South Africa and what happened recently with all of the riots and chaos down there. You probably won't hear much about it on mainstream media. I know that they touched on it briefly, but it was a big issue. Like a lot of the things in the world that the media won't touch. Just like the floods in China. The media kind of answers to China, for example. And China, if anything bad happens that makes the CCP look bad, even me talking about it, there's probably a bunch of guys out there trying to make me look bad just because I'm saying this right now. They have the 10-cent army and all these different folks who were always looking to defend China. There were some serious floods recently, if you haven't heard about it. And they were basically like a year's worth of rain in a couple days. And it flooded one of their main tunnels. This tunnel was a 6-lane tunnel that was 5 kilometers long. It's like 3 miles, 3.5 miles. A long tunnel full of people that were backed up bumper to bumper. I heard estimates that thousands died. I don't know the details. The CCP themselves say only 32 people did. But I'm getting off track here. The point being that there are extreme weather events happening around the world. And what you see is often in an area that's not under good government control. As long as they can move in with the military, which is exactly what they did right away. They moved in with the military not to help people, but to restore order. Remember this. The U.S. will do the same thing. All countries do the same thing. Whenever there's a catastrophe, they show up after the fact. Just like when you call the police, they show up after the disaster, after the shooting, after the fire. They can't solve the problem that already happened. All they can do is look for a, quote, perpetrator and find the right person that they want and blame someone. When the shit really hits the fan, for lack of a better term, you're going to want to protect yourself. You're not going to be able to rely on 911. If there were a major catastrophe, you're not going to be able to call the fire department to bail you out. You're not going to be able to call the hospital and find a bed where you can go relax to recover if you get hurt. You should be prepared for anything that can happen. And because of this, self-defense doesn't just mean having weapons. It doesn't mean having a bunch of ammo sitting around. Because I think the number one thing that's overlooked, besides knowledge and basic, info, there are 2 things that I could advise people who are, want to be able to defend themselves and protect themselves. One is the knowledge to know what to look out for. Number 2, and that means looking out for perpetrators from the outside, being able to defend your own home, your own, area, having cameras, whatever it may take, but also knowing your surroundings, knowing basic knowledge of how to do things like build a fire or create electricity or having backup batteries. Whatever you might need in your current situation. But if something ever were to happen to where the power went out for a long period of time, we might all be confused pretty quickly about what to do next. If you can't reach people on the usual means, which we right now use the internet for basically everything, we might be in trouble. When society breaks down like that, people quickly revert back to their kind of primal instincts of protecting themselves. They no longer will stand aside and be like, oh, you go ahead and take the last roll of toilet paper, or, the last can of soup. People will act like complete lunatics. And this is why I advise people to have at least a couple months' supply of food on hand at all times. Stuff you like, though. Stuff you'll go through. But to not be afraid or panic, we have to live our lives, too. Maybe things get back to normal. Maybe things never get as bad as we think they will be. But maybe they do. And I guess that's kind of the catch-22 here. We need to be prepared for anything and expect the worst, but still be able to enjoy our lives and hope for the best. Expect the worst. I guess that's about all I've got today. I don't talk about self-defense or self-protection very deeply or specifically. I know there are a lot of YouTubers / vloggers / podcasters who would be more than happy to go into the detail on exactly what kind of ammunition you might need, what kind of rifles, handguns, all this. I feel like talking about those things kind of puts you in the spotlight. In other words, the ones who are the biggest braggers about what they have in case of emergencies, or how good they are at sharpshooting, whatever it might be, are putting themselves kind of in the limelight and spotlight. I would rather be the non-bragging hippie that just doesn't know anything about anything, that actually does know some stuff about some stuff, than be that guy that has to prove who I am through those means. But there are a lot of tough guys out there who think that, having 100 rifles is the answer. Remember, you can only man a couple different firearms, and you definitely don't need enough ammo to take on an army. You can't carry it with you. Even if you can, it's not your biggest concern if you want to be able to defend yourself, because self-defense isn't always about weaponry or what martial arts you know. It can be more about whether you have a bunch of seeds in your pocket and you can grow food. So with that in mind, I will let you all go. Thanks for listening. I appreciate everyone who listened to this podcast. It's kind of the spur of the moment thing. Mind you, I had no notes, so thanks for all my listeners. Thanks to my patrons. And I'll talk to you all next time. Be well.